Hey, Carrie. Hi, Carrie. Would you mind if I made you the host? I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yes, that's fine. Hello. Yeah.
Hi. How do you do that? Your whole screen is fuzzy, even your face.
Yeah, it's because I don't have a lot of light. I usually don't have my camera on, but I think I joined with my camera by accident.
Ah, that's interesting because I finally got it so it's fuzzy around my face.
Yeah, I think it's just the lighting's bad, so I don't think it's reading my face that well.
Yeah, I am. All right, then, if you don't mind, I will put you in charge.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
Yeah, no problem. And since I have you here real quick, there's a good chance because of the snow I probably won't be coming in tomorrow.
Yes.
I'll still send an email in the morning just to let everyone know, but just since I'm seeing you now, might as well let you
Yeah,
know.
no, good to know. And everybody's taking work home, so
Okay, yeah.
good.
I'm
Good.
curious how much we're actually gonna end up getting, or if it's gonna be like rain, or if it's gonna like turn to rain, snow, ice, like
It's a wild one.
yeah.
It kind of, I think we're gonna get it though. I have,
Yeah,
I have a feeling that the way the sky looked and the air smelled
yeah.
ominous. So yeah, you don't want to be getting your car stuck in the driveway at town hall tomorrow. So
No.
yeah, I'm glad you got your stuff there. Well, have a good tomorrow.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Oh, Carrie.
Hello.
Deacon, if you're,
Hello.
hello, I was just gonna tell you you're muted, but then I saw you come up.
Yes, I I pressed the button.
That's right.
So we don't. Well, I think we're still a bit early.
Yeah. It's almost 7.
Yeah. Well, so I see Michael Lesser, you made it. Well, welcome.
Made it.
We'll have a quorum shortly, I'm sure.
Sure. I know the struggle.
It's quorums are easier with Zoom, actually.
Oh, yeah, I'm wondering, I don't know what the status is of the legislation to continue it beyond March 31st. I heard that, I think the House passed it, but maybe not the Senate or vice versa. I don't know if you've heard an update on that.
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I think there was some effort being made to try to figure out hybrid situations and that
Yeah,
may
we've
have
done that.
complicated- Pardon?
We've done that in some of our meetings. It's not the simplest
No,
process.
no, I would think not.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that that's where we go, although Zoom does work a lot better for a lot of the stuff that we work on.
Yeah.
Especially, I co-chair the Conservation Commission, and we're often looking at plans and such and things like that. So it's quite nice to just have it right on the screen for everybody.
Right. Well, look, we have a quorum. I'll call the meeting to, I mean, if Carrie, you're ready, I'll call the meeting to order and we can just start talking. I mean, I think mostly we just want to interact with our guests.
I'm
for
all
now.
set.
Good, great. So we have from Sherborne, Marion Nutra and Michael Lesser, who have been in contact with us and want to ask questions about the solar bylaws. So I'm Deacon Bonner. Nathan Murphy and Michael Dakar and Jeff Weston are here. More will show up. So why don't we just start by letting our friends from Sherborne ask a question?
Sure. Thanks for having us. where our planning board is doing its draft of a new bylaw to go before town meeting next month, and there's a big hearing at the end of this week, and I got involved in reviewing it essentially because I'm chair of our Energy and Sustainability Committee, and I also was interested because I co-chair our Conservation Commission. So I wasn't part of drafting the one we have, but I was just reviewing it and trying to look around for some improvements. And I tripped across your work there, which I will just say that I like a lot of it. And so I'll just compliment you on the new one that you got, that you just, I guess, got approved in January. And so in parts of that, I guess I'll just say that, right, parts that I particularly like is the background that you put in there, and some of the greater protections on forest mitigation, even more stringent on pesticides and prohibitions on wetlands and some of the important wildlife habitat kind of considerations that are in there. And I've been trying to promote some of that stuff to get adopted in our current draft, even though we're close to the end of our drafting period here. So I'm sort of making a final push at this end. And what has come up at our end when I talk to people here is that obviously a lot of people are reacting to the recent legal decisions, the Tracer or whatever its name is, decision, and the fact that now the Attorney General has gotten more involved in reviewing these, whereas maybe more than 2 years ago they might have to all review them, but they were less critical of certain things. But in the last year or so, they've, I gathered, been much more activist in commenting on things. And so my questions to all of you are, how well are issues around whether you've had an Attorney General letter's support of approving your most recent one, and also interested to what extent you've met some what kind of feedback, I'll call it in parentheses, from developers who might have some pushback about some of the stuff, such as the forest mitigation. So I'm just curious to learn about those things and to see if you have an Attorney General's letter, because, like, for one example, on the pesticide use, I was trying to push the sort of an equivalent ban that you have, especially given my own experience on conservation lands with some of the ineffectiveness of some of that, that they also have Attorney Generals. I've seen copies of Attorney General letters for other towns where they have said that kind of restriction goes too far, and that only the Department of Agriculture can do that kind of thing. But I'm just curious so just wanted to know about where you are with Attorney General review of that kind of stuff recently. That's recent, as opposed to years ago when they seemed to be less critical.
I'll just step in and answer that quickly. This is not agriculture. It's so we're not stepping on any Department of Ag toes. This is a special permit for an industrial use, so we're well within our abilities to condition it that way.
Yeah. Deacon, do you want me to answer some of those questions? And
Absolutely. I'll step in if I disagree.
that's good. And I'm hoping Jeff will step in if I miss stuff. So Michael, good to meet you.
Yes.
So I think in terms of the AG's decision, so we just passed this January 19th, so it's in the AG's hopper somewhere. I don't think we expect to hear back on this version. And, whether or not they're having more scrutiny or not, it's hard to know. Between the last version, our last upgrade, this is our fourth upgrade. So the third upgrade was 2 years ago, I believe. But all three versions we had to date included the mitigation for forest land. So from the get-go, that's been in there, and it's been approved by the AG 3 times. So it's never been questioned, whether they would look at, my understanding is they always look at it fresh.
Yeah.
But, if they actually looked at their notes, they would say, hey, we approved it 3 times. And it does not, in our discussions, I mean, Jeff and I were sort of the lead drafters on this. It doesn't go in the face of tracer lane per se, because you're not, we were very intentional about not saying you can't do it, you can't restrict it. The mitigation is just, if you're going to do it, it's up to this limit, and then you have to have extra stuff. So, one can make an argument that we're requiring more acreage, but if they don't have acreage, they can scale back the design, so if you don't have enough for the full 15 acres, and then the additional 60, you could do 10. So there's arguments to be made. I think just with the background piece, that was really the driver for us, and Tracer Lane was the driver for us for opening it up again and doing a revision. It was just clear that after the SJC decision, you needed to explicitly unearth and sort of connect the dots between your rationale and policy regarding protection of health, safety, and welfare. So that's what we tried to do in the background section, so that it was very clear on the get-go that we understood that that was the limitation based on current statute, and that was the basis for the regulation. And Jeff and I had lots of conversations with our town council about that, and she thought that was the right approach to go. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, if it passes muster with the AG, I think that gives a lot of running room for other towns to sort of follow suit. But I think the other thing that is worthwhile coming out of that was just the recommendation that any town document that rationale. So what we ended up doing, normally after our public hearing, there's a report from the planning board to town meeting. And,
Right.
Usually it's a paragraph, 2 paragraphs. I think this was like 3 pages. And it really just reiterated everything and underscored the connection again to public health, welfare, and safety. So that you had the policy, but then you had public hearing and the report out, so that we weren't leaving it to the lawyers to figure out what our intent was, but we were putting it in black and white and really clear. So in addition to the background piece, just sort of documenting the process. And I'm not sure if I'm missing one of those questions, but Jeff, did I miss anything so far?
Well, 2 points. One, the AG's office is going to start looking at bylaws more carefully now that there are cases. There hadn't really been cases on point, but that's what the AG is going to be doing. They're looking at the cases now, and that's going to refine what their opinions are, because they're not going to want towns to run afoul of those cases. So that's going to evolve, and over time, the AG is going to get more involved and is going to kind of follow the line of the cases in their decisions. What was number 2? It was number 2. I can't remember. Oh, goodness gracious. Give me a minute. Somebody else talk.
Michael, did we miss any of your questions?
Let's say yes, well, he thinks.
Yeah.
No, I guess, right. I see this as an evolving issue there, as you say. You're a good case in the sense of when people say, oh, once we do a bylaw, do we ever change it? I say, well, we've certainly changed our zoning bylaw from time to time. And you're a case of where this, as you say, this is your 3rd revision of this, and we're going to have more legal decisions coming down that we're going to probably maybe have to go back in a year. Our argument is this is the first time we're getting something of this magnitude on the books. So it's important to get something on the books to protect us. If we have to come back and play with it later, that's something, and deal with the severability clause.
At this point, you have nothing, no solar bylaw?
We have one there, but it has a very small, it's not nowhere near as strong as what we're putting together now. And it had a very small overlay district. One of the issues here has been, what sort of overlay district do we need to satisfy the AG's office? You don't seem to have one, if I recall correctly. But whereas there's been an opinion here that we have to have some sort of overlay. That's been controversial. So that's a whole other topic that I don't need to go into, but yes, we're struggling a little with what we're putting in as a possible overlay, just to feel like that's part of buying the AG's view, even though one could argue, as you said, the fact that even they need a special permit to do it, at least we're not denying that you can do it, just that you need to go through these kind of steps and meet these kind of conditionings.
Just quick before I forget again.
Yeah, well, yes, I hope I stalled long enough.
Yeah, as Michael said, it's kind of rationale forward, rather than the town defending itself at some point and coming up with a rationale at that time that is its defense. We meant this and we meant that. We just didn't say it. We never put it in a report. We never put it in the bylaw. But this is what we meant. So instead of doing that, we put it right in the bylaw what we mean. And that's for the benefit of the court. That's not for the benefit of any applicant. They could care less about what our reasoning is, but it's for the benefit of the court. So that is the background section and lots of other things that are woven into this bylaw to explain why we're doing what we're doing. So we say it now rather than looking like we're making it up later. And the second point was, I don't know if you're going to the CPTC workshop this weekend at Holy Cross.
Two of our planning board folks are going, so they're gonna
Okay.
find out.
At least one of ours is going, and there is a session there on solar bylaws.
Right.
So that might be a good thing to attend.
Yeah, the other thing I would just add, Jeff, what's the second case with the amount of land issue?
Kearsarge.
Kearsarge, I can never remember that name. So following on the footsteps of Tracer Lane, there was a second case. And that, so in Tracer Lane, with the SJC just basically determined that the amount of land that Waltham allowed for solar development was too small of a percentage for the overall acreage in the town. And Kearsarge sort of refined that a little bit more, but there's a whole issue that the SJC is basically saying, which is, with climate change being a reality, municipalities have to create enough possibility in terms of land area for solar development. And they came down on the side that Waltham was insufficient. There's no actual benchmark in that regard. But I think the other thing, you just reminded me of it in terms of the overlay district, which is what we ended up doing. And you might have found our map, but we have 9 areas in town where a developer can develop. So you can have one solar development in each of 9 places. So there's up to 9 in town. And the only reason I raise is that I don't know this for sure, but my gut tells me that having an overlay district then becomes the place where the courts would look to say, is it big enough? And is there enough possible room? So Waltham's was considered too small by definition where they could put it. So, it could become a little solar ghetto, in which case you couldn't really develop anything practically. So that's just something to think about, because they're looking at what's the minimum allowable space that's allowed for solar development.
Right, in Sherburne, just to clarify a little bit, the overlay district is not the only place you can put solar. Actually, the bylaw is written such that the overlay district is fairly restricted. I don't know what the percentage is, but with a special permit, you could do it anywhere in town.
Oh, that's great then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the thinking. That's why we think this might work. However, as Michael knows, I have other problems with our current version of the bylaw, and I suspect we're going to be trying to improve it in the future. I was on the planning board previously. I'm not on it now. I'm on select board now. So we'll be reviewing this again. But our town council advised that wherever possible, at points in the bylaw, that one hearken back to the environmental principles under which you're not just put in like we allow this and don't use this, don't do that, but in each place that we can put in a reference back to our intent, which is to save the environment. And I should also say that Sherburne probably like Shutesbury, maybe we have a bigger problem than Shutesbury because we're almost entirely forested. We have no big parking lots. We have no commercial district of any size. We have no place to put solar other than, you know, almost any place you could designate in town. For example, if we divided the town into 6 districts or 9 districts, every one of them is almost entirely forested. So basically, what I hope is that eventually state law will be refined such that it's not only just a lack of incentive to put solar, to cut down forest to put solar, but there will be actual disincentives or controls. It's not, the state is not thinking regionally. I mean, we abut towns that have huge shopping malls, huge parking areas. Right on our border is an incredibly large used car outfit with acres and acres and acres of pavement, plenty of place to put solar, but you know, every town has to do its bit. So that's where we're at.
So Marion, I would just say Shutesbury is very similar. We're all forested as well. The one caution I would just give is
I would just say too, that we've got about a minute to go before we need to move on.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm
yeah.
done.
The only thing I would say is tying it to environmental stuff, although common sense wise is not legally sound. So the term of art is public health, welfare, and safety, because that's what's in statute. And so what we did is if you have healthy forests, if you have good, safe drinking water sources, et cetera, that ties to public health, welfare, and safety, which is environmental in orientation, but it doesn't hold up statutorily, in my non-legal opinion.
No, I know it doesn't. I don't have any hope that it's going to. However, if enough towns insert that kind of language and make that argument, it might gain more weight over the course of time. And we'll see what happens in the courts.
The people from Sherborne, just bear in mind that the solar exemption in Section 3 of the Zoning Act was put in 1985, and there was no such thing as the solar farms that we see now. So it wasn't contemplated that it would ever pertain to anything like that. It was designed to prevent towns from prohibiting solar hot water on people's roofs. And it was written like that, so it would pertain kind of universally, because that was the only thing that was going on at the time. And what the legislature needs to do is refine that.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree, Jeff. But we are where we're at right now. So
Well, we've run over your time, I guess, but yeah, no, I have to go figure out still how to convince people that the pesticide thing is not is something we could try to put in there because of the I think it was Bellingham or whatever it is, the AG.
Yeah.
The AG ruled on somebody about that, and that one I'd like to see if we can convince people to sneak it in, even if and get knocked down again if that's what it takes. To make the point about the health issue, since we are one of the few towns in this area that all of our drinking water are private wells. So we have that kind of health argument, unlike most towns in this area. But I will not go, but you're already behind schedule, so I'll end there, and thank you for your time, and I know where to find you people.
Okay.
Thanks for
And
letting us
good
know.
work. I appreciate your work.
Good luck to you guys. Good luck.
Could I add, I'd like to add 10 seconds if I could. I know your vote is in a month. I don't know if there has to be some kind of public meeting to discuss it before the vote. I'm only bringing that into consciousness because that was necessary for us.
Oh, yeah, no, we have it on Saturday is our equivalent to that kind of big public hearing where.
Thank you. I'm done.
Thank you. Okie dokie. Thank you very much for your time and your work. We're stealing some of it. Thank you.
Same to you. Good night.
Well, let's move
Somebody
on.
has sports in there.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Let's move on to Mark Whiteman's open space design proposal.
Hello. I wasn't sure I was on. Okay. Can you hear me
You
okay?
are, you are.
Great. So I believe as we left it, Jeff was going to work on a proposed document. I guess I should hand the floor to Jeff and see where we are. Before I do, I actually will let you know that I have contacted Kestrel Trust and Mount Grace. They have sent it to their conservation division, and they'll get back to me as soon as they can. And the other thing that I had done at your request is I have put together a ZBA request for the driveway, and I'm ready to submit it. I'm just waiting for the hard copies to come from SVE, which I should have tomorrow, so I can submit it sometime this week.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, can I?
I
can
wish you
share
would.
Can I share the draft
Yeah.
of
Exactly.
Okay, so host disabled participant screen sharing. So I need to be enabled here.
I did. I made you a co-host, so you should be able
Okay,
to
here
share.
we go. Let's see. What do I have? Hopefully nothing embarrassing up here. There we go. Okay, this is it. I drafted this up, and before I sent it to the group, I sent it to Michael. I knew he was interested, and he gave me some good input. And I tried to weave it in. We chatted a little bit back and forth, and I tried to weave it in. This draft has yellow, where I think there are sort of unresolved issues, like the case number. I don't know what the case number is. And let's see. Yeah, there are other places, but anyway, it's structured in a similar manner to the Chuck Damari one, which was like this. It was a non-subdivision open space design. Back then, it was done by site plan review. Now we do it by special permit, but doesn't really matter. And then Olszewski, which is our second one, which is also done by site plan review. So these permits look a lot like those, and indeed I did steal from them. Just about everything in those previous ones is in here in one form or another. But what it does is this is a fairly standard form for special permits. It talks about the hearing dates, lists those out. It talks about what the request is. And I borrow somewhat from the applicant's materials to phrase what the request is. List the plans that we have. And then the findings, so that the planning board finds, and then there's a number of findings. You all should have reviewed all these things because it's been out there for a while. But many of these findings are similar to those other two projects. And there's 9 findings. And then the possible votes. These are not actual votes. These are possible votes. If the thing is approved, then it would be, we'd have to take a vote, and I'd record the votes. And then the conditions. And again, the conditions were both ones we've used before, and then conditions that are specific to this project. This is a big condition here that we got to talk about. Number 5. And the issue of the vegetative barrier along one side of the driveway, should that be a condition or should that be a private arrangement between the applicant and the abutter? I don't know. This is a little strange one that needs some explanation from the other ones. So 11 conditions. And then the rest of it is just the signing of the permit at the end. So that's the overview on the permit, and be happy to open it up and see what people think about it.
Jeff, could you go down just a little bit to that, I think was the first paragraph right there. Yeah, so there was a mistake on our submittal, which I think we talked about the last time, that says building lot for one dwelling unit. You had specified that it would be able to be a duplex or a single family house. It could also be with another special permit. It could be a single family house with a residential separate residential dwelling. But I'd like that to say, I mean, if it falls within the parameters of the bylaw, which I think it does, that it's a residential lot, which would allow it to be a single family or a duplex.
Okay, I phrased this the way you had presented it the last time.
Well, it was the gentleman who had
okay.
written it, unfortunately had left the company. We couldn't change it before I got it here. I mean, I can cross it out or something and put residential unit or residential lot instead of one new dwelling unit.
Okay, so this is what we're talking about right here.
Yes.
All right. So, yeah, you're aware that it could accommodate a duplex. It could accommodate a single family dwelling, accommodate a single family dwelling with an accessory apartment, all on a non-common driveway, right? Because you're
Right.
limited because you have an individual driveway. So those
Yes.
are all the things you can get. All right. So my impression from the last meeting, and I drafted this based on the last meeting, was that you were self-limiting this project to one new dwelling unit. So you want to change that.
Well, no, I don't think I was saying that. I think we're talking about one building. So it's the potential of, I don't plan on building there. I just want to make sure I'm keeping the options open for a buyer. So it could be one residential lot, which would allow a duplex. You had stated that if I wanted to have a residential lot with a separate dwelling unit, that would be another permit to go through. So I'm trying to give an option. My thought process, Jeff, is that it's hard to find space, as we all know these days, and that's one of the reasons doing the additional dwelling units on land. So to be able to have somebody be able to put a house together that might have an in-law or a mother or something of that fashion inside the house, along with the living space for the owner, I think is kind of important in everything we do these days. I know that down here in Deerfield, they're changing the rule right now to allow accessory buildings as well.
Hey, Jeff, before you change it,
These changes are not permanent.
Okay.
I'm just changing it to reflect the wording that would express what he's now wishing for.
well, that's sort of my point. So it's a question procedurally, but we opened and closed the hearing where information was provided both in writing and orally. And so this is a documentation of what was requested. So I don't know if it's cool to change the request, being that that's not what actually was requested at the time. It's sort of a post hearing request. It seems like, I don't know the legality of it, but it seems, I don't want to be a pain in the neck, but it doesn't seem correct to me.
So Michael's asking, what did you originally ask for?
Well, I'm going back to the last meeting that we had because I wasn't involved in the meeting prior, and that's when my engineer submitted the plan with the information, and I didn't realize he had put in residential or single family dwelling. So we had the conversation at the last meeting that I asked you specifically what was allowed on that parcel, and you had stated those items or the different choices that could be made. So that's what I thought we were moving forward with. I think that's what the neighbor thought as well. I mean, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it seemed as though we had a long conversation about what would be able to be allowed under the bylaw. So your bylaw, as I understand it, says it's a residential lot, and a residential lot allows a single family or a duplex, and with another permit, it would allow an accessory structure.
Yeah, and I guess I'll just clarify. I mean, my thought is, if the board feels like what you requested was, a single building that could be a duplex, then that would accurately reflect what the request was. I guess I heard you saying two things. One was that you wanted to change what was presented, and that didn't seem correct to me. Like, to say we requested it, but we're updating it. But if the board says, "Oh no, we did hear that we discussed," and I remember the accessory part of it, where Jeff was talking about that you could have an accessory detached I remember us talking about the dwelling, but if there's a consensus among the board that the request was for a single, building that could be a duplex, then that's consistent with what was requested. I just don't want to change what the request was if that wasn't what was made at the time. That's all.
I agree. And this has become convoluted because I've lost 2 engineers in SVE in the last 3 months. One has retired and the other one left for another company, and he had written the document. As I said, I happened to be out of the country at the time and down with COVID and the flu in Mexico. So I wasn't able to get on and make the discussions at the meeting prior to the last one. When I got him on the phone, when he was leaving, this last engineer, and I said to Mark, why did you write single family home? And he goes, well, that's, most places don't have what they call a residential lot. It's just a single family lot. And I said, but I don't want to be restricted to that. And that's why we brought it up last meeting, was to make sure that I understood, that you guys understood what I was looking for. And that the only thing I could have done was cross it out with a pen. I mean, that's, we used to write these by hand, but I wouldn't have had a problem crossing it out by pen, but it's already been submitted that way. So I understand the concern. I don't think that I think that we had this conversation last time, so I don't feel as though I'm not trying to be underhanded and try and pull something here. I'm trying to make sure that I'm allowing the opportunity to somebody purchase this to do something with it's probably more positive than negative by being able to have a separate housing unit of some sort. Being a duplex, that's fine. That would allow them to have multi-generations there.
Well, it seems like the second paragraph actually covers your bases.
Yeah, there it
No?
is. Right.
Yeah. Well, I recall stating several times that you could have a duplex, you could have a single family dwelling, you could have a single family dwelling with an attached or accessory apartment attached or not, or detached. And you repeatedly saying, no, we just want a single family dwelling.
No, that's not accurate. I'm not, that never, maybe we'll have to go back to the
tape.
The tape. Yeah, please play the tape. No, that wasn't my intention through this entire thing. When he wrote that incorrectly, unfortunately, I didn't see the end copy until I was out of the country. So I didn't know that he had single family or whatever he put in there, single dwelling. I think he actually put single family dwelling is how he worded it. And then I had this last conversation was every time you brought that up, I kept saying yes. It certainly makes a lot of sense to me. And that was my question that was the question we were falling under a residential lot. Tony Wanseski, who's the SV engineer that retired, I questioned him when I still have his cell number. He's probably driving him crazy, but I was able to get a hold of him out in wherever he was playing golf in Arizona. And he said it's not atypical to change these on the permit as long as the permit specifies what it is the board is approving. And I understand you want to make sure that that whatever was discussed in the public hearing is what we're talking about. And I completely agree with that. But I think if you go back to the tape, it'll show that I was in agreement with you when you were discussing this residential lot, that we fell under the requirements or the abilities of a residential lot, not just a single family dwelling.
I think we should, kind of keep talking about this, but on one hand, as far as the request, it's somewhat of a technical matter. It was, the single family residence or whatever, right? And that was kind of like the letter of the written request that we received. I don't know if that precludes that, in the findings that we might have, through a deliberation, that it would be apparent that, even that was what the request was, the permit would provide for a buildable, residential lot, which would, not prohibit you from doing a two-family or a single family, depending on who the buyer is. And that's something we would have to probably deliberate on more to, make sure we're all on the same page with that. So, just because it's not written the way you're thinking on it and what the request is, Mark, doesn't necessarily mean that that's that's going to limit what the finding is.
Right. Thank you. I agree. And I mean, worst case scenario, if you approve it and you approve it as a single family dwelling, I guess I could always come back and do it again and get it as a residential lot. It seems like it'd be a, waste of time, but I want to make sure we're doing this right, and I'm not cutting any corners. So
Yeah.
I would like you guys to agree that it's a residential dwelling and that that was the intention, even though the original paperwork did not say that.
Yeah, I would agree with Nathan. I mean, if either way we go, if we were gonna sort of go in this direction, putting it in the findings seems like the better place to make the adjustment. Because we can reflect either the inconsistency between the documentation and the discussion, or we could just find that we wanted to do it. So I think it's up to the board should discuss it, but if it lands, it should show up in the findings, is I guess what I'm agreeing with.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't want to skip ahead too far, but one of the findings that Jeff has put in the draft is, this approval renders the building lot shown on the site plan eligible for the issuance of a building permit for the construction of a single-family dwelling and accessory structures. So that could be where, we might tweak that finding to say, single family or duplex, and applicable accessory structures, right? But when we get there, then we can deliberate on that finer point.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what everybody's looking at right now. I've been thumbing around through the application materials. Are we looking at project work description, 18 acres, Leverett Road, right now?
No, we're looking at your draft.
Okay, you're still looking at that. All right, I'm
Yeah,
on to
and before
another
that, we're looking at your banking record, so everything's cool.
Oh, okay, well, if anybody would like to make a contribution, I'd gladly accept. But anyway, here's an application document, project work description. This was submitted with the application, and it says, proposed open space design will consist of a single-family residential development. I'm not sure what that means.
So that was back
Single-family
when it was-
residential development.
That was back when it was 3 lots, Jeff.
Well, all this stuff was submitted. It's dated August 23rd, 22, but it was all part of the application package. So that identifies it as a single-family residential development. So that's either one single-family dwelling or it's more than one. And if it's more than one, then it of course takes a common driveway. So
Right.
I'm still going with my impression from the tapes that I repeatedly informed you of what was available, and you repeatedly said you wanted a single family dwelling, possibly for yourself. So, and now you're coming in with a change.
I disagree. I mean, I certainly agree that the paperwork that was submitted, unfortunately, they used the template from the 3 lot that was turned down because you guys changed the bylaw. So he used that as a template to be able to write the new one. He didn't change it because at that point, we're looking at 3 residential lots. I asked him to change this. The young man did leave the company, couldn't get it changed. It was submitted the way it was submitted. I saw the mistake afterward. And at that point, it had been submitted. That's when I called my engineer, told him what was going on. He said they can change it when they write the permit. We had the conversation during public hearing, and we have a disagreement as to what you stated and what I stated. I have an agreement as to what you stated. I agree that's exactly what you said multiple times. And I said, great, it was a residential lot. That's how this should have been written. I understand if you don't want to vote on it that way, and you feel as though it's something I'm trying to pull after the fact, after the public hearing is closed. If that's the case, if you want to approve it and approve it as a single family dwelling, I'll come back and get it approved later on as a residential lot, as your bylaw states. I mean, the bylaw states residential lots. That the engineer made that mistake, but if you think that's taking advantage of someone who, like the neighbor who thought there would only be the ability to have a single family lot, then I understand what you're saying. I just don't agree with what you're saying, what my responses were to you in the meeting.
Well, the bylaw it now says it's a special permit, and it now says that we can evaluate the benefits versus detriments of allowing more development than could otherwise be possible without Article 5. So that gives us discretion in terms of what we allow. So it's not a question of you having an absolute right to a duplex.
Right.
You have that if we give you a discretionary special permit after evaluating the benefits and detriments to that.
Right.
My thinking after a couple of meetings with you is that there'd be one single family dwelling back there with that amount of traffic going by those two houses. So now you're proposing double the traffic. So that's meaningful to me.
Yes, and so on the vein of that you're discussing here, the fact that you have to have discussion to decide what the permit's going to allow and not allow, because it says a single family dwelling doesn't mean you can't allow it to be a duplex and a single family dwelling. That's up to you. All I am stating is I do not believe that I said yes to a single family dwelling ever in the last meeting. Each time you brought it up, my recollection was that I said, great, it'll be a residential lot, which allows a single, and you and I had a discussion regarding the fact that my understanding was it would allow a duplex or a single family home, but if you wanted to have a accessory, that would be another permit to allow, or another, I think it's a permit that would allow this accessory building. But a duplex and a single family was something that the bylaw, the special permit allowed. And again, if you want to keep it to a single family, if that's the crux of this and the concern, then we can do that, and we'll start this whole thing again and go through and do it the right way. I'll get some other engineer to change those three words, I guess it is, single family dwelling into residential lot, and I'll hold on to this for now. And if I find a buyer who wants it the way it's written, that's fine. If I decide to go through it again, we'll go through it again.
I'd like to say, my memory is just as Jeff said. I came away from that meeting understanding that you knew that a two-family was possible, but that you still wanted the single family anyway. I had that very clear impression, and I think other people in the room did too.
Then that's how you should vote. Do you guys have the, I know it's not available here, but I'm curious if you have the tapes of, these are taped, I take it? These are taped or videotaped?
They are.
These
Yeah,
are, sorry, if I could jump in. These are recorded and they're actually all online on YouTube.
Oh, they are.
Yes, if you
Great.
go and search for, I think it's the town of Shutesbury, and you can go through the playlists of each board, and you'll be able to find planning board, and the playlist starts from oldest and ends with the newest one.
Okay. Well, I'll take a look at it tonight. I certainly didn't mean to be misleading. I'm certainly not trying to pull anything. So again, if you think that's the case, vote for a single family dwelling, and I'll make my decisions from there. You know, what I want to do in the future. I wasn't expecting this.
Well, Mark, the calculations do allow for up to a duplex. But the planning board, because of amendments that we drafted a few years ago, has the ability through the special permit to trim that if we feel that's in the best interest of the neighborhood and we weigh benefits and detriments. So the duplex would be the upper limit allowed by the calculations, but we are free to trim that. I didn't think we'd have to trim it because I thought you had trimmed it yourself. So I think maybe we all better go back and play the tapes. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure the calculations allowed me 2 separate lots. Isn't that accurate?
well, it's the building envelope, and you could have done a couple of lots, yes.
And wouldn't each lot allow a duplex as well under the bylaw? or a special permit?
No.
The potential of a duplex on each lot?
No, the calculations give you 2 dwelling units. So they could have been in the form of a duplex, which is 2 dwelling units, or yeah. Yeah,
So if someone meets the requirements for a residential lot, then it's specific to only a single family house. If it doesn't have the criteria to meet the criteria of the calculations for 2 units.
The upper limit would be either 2 single family dwellings or a duplex. You know, either way, it's 2 dwelling units.
What I'm referring to is if this didn't meet the requirements for 2 lots or 2 dwellings, in other words, we had to look at them as separate lots. Then you're saying if it meets the requirements for a single lot, someone can, so the residential, it says residential lots allows duplexes and single family homes.
Right. But don't think of it in terms of lots.
Right.
Lots really aren't that important. You have a buildable area that's 3.97 acres. And within there, you could divide that area up and put a single family dwelling on each one, or you could put a duplex on the whole thing.
Follow you. So let's leave it alone. Let's just leave it as a single family dwelling. I'm not going to fight that. If I want to do something different, then I'll look at it later on. But I think that's it sounds as though I'm forgetting what I said, and that's possible. 64. So who knows? But it was not my intention. If that's how it came across in the last meeting, and that's obviously what it's written on the proposal, then let's do a single family dwelling. And we'll leave it alone for now.
All right, board weigh in, please, before I make changes here.
I would support leaving it alone, especially if Mark's saying that based on this conversation, that's okay with him. That seems like it's, for me, it's the better way to go.
Well,
Anyone else?
I'm sorry. The other thing that I would just want to make sure we're looking at is that I do have respect for the neighbor, and I want to make sure that I'm abiding by what you believe I said in the last meeting. And you know, I've put my hand out to shake his, you know, digitally to let him know that I'm happy to make sure we give him a seclusion. So I'm sure that will make the neighbor happy anyway. And if this was an issue during the discussion last meeting, I thought he would have brought that up, that he would like to see just being a single family house. That didn't happen, but I'm sure that's what he wants to see back there if something's going to be back there. So I think that's more reason to leave it as single family dwelling.
My impression, again, Mark, I have to say that my impression from the last 2 meetings was that the neighbor being in attendance, just like I was in attendance, probably had the same impression I did, that you were talking about one single family dwelling, that you were going to self-limit yourself to one single family dwelling. I believe that was the neighbor's understanding, the same as it was mine. So,
yeah, Mark, there was also like, there were several times I thought where, you were giving some indication that you might indeed live in the residence there.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to make sure it was something with an in-law apartment, because I don't have to get into specifics, but there's some reasons I would like that to be the case if I'm going to be there. So that's the reason I find this odd that there's a belief by several that I was misleading, that it would be something other than a single family house.
okay, Mark, you have to understand that an in-law apartment, otherwise known as an accessory apartment, is different than a duplex. An accessory apartment is possible with a single family dwelling, attached or detached. A duplex is one structure with 2 dwelling units in it with no size limits.
Right.
And they're 2 different things.
And that would be if I wanted to go for an accessory unit, then it's something that's going to take another set of meetings to do that. If you were approving it as a residential lot, it would be approved as a duplex as well.
Yep, you can come in anytime to the zoning board of appeals and get yourself an accessory apartment.
Hmm.
Or not, but I think it's just site plan review for either attached or detached. So that's not very discretionary. That's, you know, you would be conditioned in a minor way. But it's not like this. This is discretionary.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, you're pretty much assured an accessory apartment.
So well, you've done it 3 times. I'll do the third. I don't believe that's what I said in the last meeting, but I want to make sure that I'm honoring whatever we discussed and whatever was discussed with the neighbor, what his intentions, his belief, my intentions are. So if you believe, again, you know, speaking for this young man, but if you believe that his understanding was a single family lot, a single family dwelling, then I think that's what I need to do.
Okay, so planning board, I've amended this to say 1 building lot for up to 1 single family dwelling and accessory structures. So how does
Is
that?
it
How does
is
that
it
sound?
it's called a building lot though, Jeff, as we we're just discussing?
Well, it's, you know, it's your 3.97 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the buildable portion. But, you know, you can call that 1 building lot and then 1 conservation lot.
Mhm.
So Jeff, I'm fine with the first paragraph. I think you just want to make sure that the second paragraph, first sentence is consistent. Where it says a single residential lot, that's just what we've been talking about. So it's a single dwelling lot
Or
or.
single family.
Yeah,
Yeah. There you go. That would do it. You got it again down below too. Next line up.
the third line.
Where am I?
Yeah, in that second paragraph, third line.
One line down, Jeff.
Okay, gotcha, thank you. Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. All right.
You've been breaking up pretty badly, yeah.
Probably because it's snowing like a bandit out there, and
Is it?
it is. Big time plow day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
In plans, we should get Mr. Whiteman's name right.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there we go. I probably need to do a global search and
Take that H out, or the first H out too.
oh my goodness. Okay, I've spelled it every possible way. Okay.
You didn't put WRIGHTMA on, so it's surprising actually.
All right. I'll go through and correct all that.
Sure.
WIGHTMAN. Yeah. Okay. All right. So unless anyone else has any comments, I will go down to the first yellow part, which is in the conditions. So these are important conditions, these first 4. The driveway shall follow the center line of the existing cart path for its entire distance from the street and north until the lot widens out at the house site. So we're going to use the existing cart path alignment.
Well, again, this is a conversation that we had where I will go to the ZBA and ask for a permit for a variance, but we discussed the fact that if I didn't get the variance, that would not affect the permit, that I would be approved for the driveway required by the special permit, and that you would put a caveat on there that I would go to the ZBA.
Okay, that's number 5. We'll get to that in just one second.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So these 1 through 4 is how we would like it. The tree, 75 feet from Lever Road, shall be retained intact. The driveway shall loop around it to the east. You can't loop around it to the west because there's no space.
So we're going.
Right. So we leave the tree there, and the driveway from the road to the tree just loops around it and leaves
Sure.
it in place.
Wait, is that all right is that all right with the neighbor? We're getting out on that side again? Well, he's okay with me even going down the center as long as I'm putting the shrubs in. So, okay, that's fine.
Traveled lane of the driveway shall be between 8 and 9 feet wide and top dressed with a compacted 3 inches of trap rock gravel. So this pretty much allows you to follow the alignment without doing too much damage to the rock wall where it gets narrow.
Yes.
And I would say, based on being a plow guy in Shutesbury, that 8 and 9 feet is quite average for driveways in our town.
And it's only a short distance, so it's not the massive length of this thing. It's just the short distance, right in one little space.
Well, this indicates that the whole driveway will be between 8 and 9 feet wide.
Well, the plan that I've done for the ZBA shows the driveway going to 8 to 9 feet wide in that strip next to the neighbor's house. And then when it gets past their house and comes onto my property, it'll extend out to 12 feet wide, 11 feet wide, whatever it is there. So if we can keep it to 8 or 9 the whole way, that gives somebody a little more leverage. They can decide to go wider. Is that accurate in town if they want to go a little wider?
Well,
because once it's on my land, Jeff, it's not going to interrupt anything back there. There's no stone walls near that cart path or the current path that's there.
okay, so you're willing to, you want to build it 12 feet wide, other than this one narrow spot in the between the two rock walls.
Yeah, I think it makes sense just for fire protection, police, all that good stuff, to make sure there's as wide an area after the short strip as possible. I mean, I'm willing to, if you think it makes more sense to leave it 8 or 9 feet wide, and
Jeff, why don't we, I would support having it be 8 or 9 feet wide up until past the house, so from the road back, into the equivalent of the backyards of those houses, and then it can widen open from there, because it's not an infringement at that point.
correct. There are some stone walls past that, the house I'd like to retain. That's what we're talking about, Jeff. So it's almost when we get to the back boundary lines of the neighbor to the east, then the road would widen out. If I've got wording here on this.
Right. 8 or 9 feet wide up to and through the narrow part of the cart path. So there's a point back there a ways when it necks down. So we don't want it expanded to 12 feet, because that would really obliterate the rock wall and probably take out some trees in that area.
Correct. That's why I want to keep it the cart path until we get to where the lot widens. I guess that's, so that's past the neighbor, the east neighbor. The lot widens, obviously, and goes behind several houses. And that's where it can go to 12 feet, maximum 12 feet. Why don't we put that a maximum of 12 feet?
All right. Well, I think the only thing that the planning board is trying to accomplish here is to have it be minimally obvious from the road, and be able to get through the narrow part without wrecking the stone wall and taking trees out.
Absolutely.
And beyond that, I think you, like everyone else in town, is free to construct the driveway of your dreams.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And then the last one, to the greatest extent practicable, that stone wall trees that line the cart path shall be retained. So this is sort of the planning board's, what we want to view in consideration of the abutters. And this is sort of the crux of why we're giving this permit, I think, anyway. So number 5, and this part here Michael weighed in on. I wrote it like this because I believe that's the way we left it in the minutes, but it doesn't have to stay like this. That should the aforementioned four conditions fail to be met due to actions by the building inspector or Shutesbury Zoning Board of Appeals, full disclosure, I'm the chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think that needs to be made known. Or the initiation of an appeal of a favorable decision by the ZBA, the applicant shall be free to construct the driveway in accordance with the plans submitted with a special permit application, e.g. 12 feet wide and centered within the lot lines.
So you want me to share my thoughts, Jeff?
Yes, please do.
Okay, so, I mean, during the hearing, I think it was just a matter of, collecting information. When I saw how Jeff wrote it, at this point, I don't agree with this language. I think, all parties concerned said that the preference would be for a smaller, the narrower driveway. And then the question is just, if the ZBA doesn't approve it, what happens? So I went back, and this is sort of an open question to the board, because I want to check my understanding. But looking at in the bylaws, the zoning bylaws, the first sentence of the purpose of open space design says the primary purpose of this section is to preserve the open space resources of Shutesbury as identified in the master plan, especially large contiguous blocks of forested backland. So that's the premise for doing open space design. And then my understanding, which is the question, is this couldn't be done as an A&R because it's an adequate frontage. There's no 250 feet. So if it wasn't an open space design, there would be no development. That would be the status quo would be there'd be no house. And so the only way to put a house back there in land that's not otherwise developable is through open space design. And so I'm okay with it given, the concessions and, where Mark, you were coming from and the discussion with the abutters that they were sort of, all parties want a narrow driveway and, we can get to the trees and stuff, but there was intent of like, let's have minimal impact. That all feels good to me. The issue is if the ZBA doesn't approve it, I think building a 12-foot wide driveway then does have negative impact on the abutters as they've articulated for a property and a development that otherwise couldn't be developed without open space design. So it's not to sort of, it has nothing to do with you so much as I'm going back to the source document and saying, why are we having this open space design bylaw anyway? And it's, I don't, I'm not going to ask the ZBA at this point, but, like making that decision, what are the reference points for it? It seems like a minimal driveway it's a win-win for most everybody. It just.
Can you actually, if the ZBA chooses not to allow the driveway to be where it is for whatever reason, can you allow an 8-foot wide driveway through the center instead of a 12-foot wide driveway? Is that something you folks could do?
No, that would still require a variance from the 12 feet to the 8.
For the ZBA?
Yeah, because those are both zoning requirements. Yep. So essentially what we're saying here is that we're going to give you the special permit, but you need to construct it in the way that we've outlined, and that is going to necessitate you're going off to the ZBA to get a variance.
If you change the wording.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, either way, they have to go to the ZBA. This is
Right.
Yeah.
What happens when he comes back from the ZBA is the issue.
Yeah, it comes back and say they denied me, or they approved me and it was appealed. Then, well, he doesn't even have to come back. Then he automatically gets to build what he proposed. And I've swung around to being in agreement with Michael DiChiara on this one. That 5 probably ought to go. That's my feeling.
Anyone else?
I would support that as well, I think.
We probably need to hear from at least 4 members that feel the same way, or we should take a vote.
Well,
Before I get it out of here.
Can I ask-
Why don't
is it all right if I
why don't
ask-
Somebody make a motion to strike it, and then we'll have discussion and vote.
That's smart. Okay. I'll move to change the language in condition number 5. Jeff, scroll down a little bit more. To eliminate the option for construction with a 12-foot wide driveway.
Then you just want to remove all of number 5?
No. Just in 5, hold on, I'm gonna look at my copy, so I don't have to ask Jeff to. Yes, I think that's right. Yeah, I'll move to strike number 5.
Is it all right? I'm not sure about protocol. Am I allowed to ask a question while you guys are voting like this?
Well, let us get a second and then we'll have discussion and then it'd be appropriate.
Thanks.
So Michael's made the motion. Do we hear a second?
yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, so discussion.
The special permit that I'm trying to get through here requires a 12-foot wide drive. What was if you're trying to do this, what was the reason for the 12-foot drive?
It's site specific. And so the 12-foot drive is, if you can have an open space design with 3 households, 3 buildings, 4 buildings, you can have, multi residential plot open space design. So and it could be in a wide open area. So the concept in open space design is to sort of cluster development and leave open space.
Right.
This is site specific in the fact that you're sort of wedging this thing between 2 existing houses. So
Gotcha.
the dynamic of the driveway actually makes a difference.
So the intent was to have a 12-foot wide drive because it might be accessing more than one dwelling.
And it could be on frontages, say 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
So
gotcha.
it would.
Okay, just curious.
You see, normally the frontage would be 250 feet and, wouldn't have any impact on anyone on the sides, and you could put your 12-foot driveway wherever you wanted and be fine. But
I think it's going to look great with a smaller driveway, and I like the idea of going around that tree and hiding it, making it wedge through like that. I think it's going to look beautiful.
and Mark, it's gonna save you a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of excavation that was proposed. That's,
Yeah.
not only is it gonna be impactful on the neighbors, but it's gonna be expensive to you to do.
Yeah, it's true. I just want to make sure that it's more important to me to, like we just discussed, to make sure the neighbor feels as though they're being represented in this, and I think that's what we're doing. So, or that's what you folks are doing. So, not that it matters, but I have no problem with number 5 going away as well. I feel pretty confident the ZBA, don't nod your head at all, Jeff, but I feel pretty confident the ZBA will be voting in favor of this because they see it as a positive enhancement for that property.
Yeah. Jeff, Deacon, do you guys have anything you want to share before we vote?
Well, I was just about to see if anybody wanted to talk more, because.
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit more, because I just want to, raise the question of, the durability of our permit. If, we have a condition that requires, the applicant seek a variance from the ZBA. So if, let's say, for some reason, the ZBA decides to change their mind and turn it down. Or if, maybe they approve it, but somebody comes and, appeals it, perhaps someone from one of the public safety organizations within town or something like that, right? And, that variance is basically overturned somehow. And now without this condition, right, then that would basically say that the permit is not going to be able to go into effect. And then Mark, the applicant may decide to take some sort of action against the town or the planning board through whatever, processes are available to him. So if that, in that scenario, what condition is this permanent,
Yeah.
given that scenario?
Well, it's a special permit, so there's no by right. And I mean, I guess I have a strong feeling that we shouldn't be making decisions based on, not that Mark's threatening to legal action, but for an applicant to take legal action. I mean, I think the two things for me are there was a very clear purpose defined in the zoning bylaws about why having open space design is important. And there's also a clear rationale for why we have frontage requirements. And so if you throw those out the window because we're concerned that someone's going to take legal action, then it sort of calls things into question.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we throw those out the window. I'm, my question pertains to, what, whether or not, for example, if we were to say, if this scenario were to play out, then, it's likely that, I don't know what the process is, to be honest, but, they're going to say, okay, well, you know what, we're going to, do a summary, we're going to grant the special permit, a summary judgment, right? Like we talk about with some of the other things in town, if, like if we fail to meet quorum during the special permit hearing or something like that, or fail to follow the procedures and respond within a certain time frame, right? You get a summary judgment allowing the permit to be issued, right? By the state, overriding anything that we might say at the town level. So, if we said this puts us in a kind of a bad position there, we may decide to just not issue the permit. And say that, because we find that it's, we're not able to really issue it in a way that does meet the intent of the bylaw.
Well, Nate, the applicant has a path to approval, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm just asking the question, I'm not very.
Yeah, it's a two-step path. A
Right.
special permit from us, and then some action from the zoning board of appeals. And that's not uncommon, that it's a two-step process. But it's a viable path to approval. And it's more than the applicant could get otherwise without Article 5, without our special permit. So we've opened the door for him getting one more unit than he otherwise could. So as far as I'm concerned, we're good.
All right, yeah, no, I mean, I'm just kind of trying to, pick everyone's brain and, get, make sure we're thinking about everything we need to be thinking about, that's all, but.
Would it be more?
It's, it's not arbitrary and capricious, right? It's, the applicant has a path to do what they want to do. And if for some reason they're not able to go down that path where, we opened the door to go down it and it didn't work out, but we did what we could do and we're good.
Yeah.
Would there be
He could, if something goes wrong with the ZBA, he could come back and to the planning board and modify this special permit with a different design that perhaps has a 12-foot driveway or a 10-foot driveway and align it in such a way that it, that we could approve that. I mean, that's a possibility for him too.
So could you write that into number 5, that's the case if it is, I fail to meet if the driveway proposed fails to meet the actions of the building inspector or Shutesbury zoning board of appeals, then the applicant has the right to come back to the planning board for a review.
I don't
Maybe
think it would. I don't think it would save you anything. Well, this is a question for Jeff, I guess. But if a special permit is approved and then amendment is sought, it has to go through the entire special permit process again. So I guess the question, Jeff, is if a special permit has not been approved, but has been considered and voted on, what's the process? I would assume if it's not spelled out, that we would want to have the same kind of requirement, that it would have to have the same 2/3 vote.
Well, you know, I don't think that that's a condition for the special permit. You know, if there are, you know, the conditions we do have in there, if, you know, for some reason the applicant is not able to meet a condition, and or for some other reason that they need to make a change to what the permit is allowing, then it's just the legal framework that they can come back to the board and amend the permit. So that's not a condition.
Yeah.
You know,
It already exists, you're saying?
Yeah, that goes
Okay.
without saying.
Okay, so that, I think that goes on what you were saying, Nathan, about being concerned with what would happen if I was denied by the ZBA or for some other reason. So it gives me an additional path to come back to the planning board to have this modified to react to that finding.
Well, right, yeah, you can always come back and seek to modify a permit, or, you know, do whatever, you know, you are your own actor in this.
But is that, does that mean we're starting from scratch, or is the permit which has been approved can be modified by, how does that work?
Well, you know, if you were to seek a modification of this permit, should we end up voting to approve it, then,
I mean,
yeah, that would, you know, there'd be a public hearing, it'd be, you know.
Yeah, I think that's-
more or less the same process, right?
Okay,
I mean,
that
I think
sounds
it's,
great.
you know, probably the documentation is simpler because we've established everything in this process, you know, and it's a little bit more of a narrow focus in the conversations and everything like that. I mean, you know, that's not to say that there couldn't be other considerations that are brought in at that time.
Sure.
Right.
Okay. No, it makes sense.
yeah, I mean, you would come in, you'd have to go through a special permit hearing process, but you'd come in just for that one thing.
Okay, so before we vote, does anybody want to say anything more? I mean, we have a motion before us to strike number 5. Hearing no comment, I'll call the roll. Jeff Weston,
You're muted.
should I take that as an aye, Jeff?
Yes, aye.
Jeff Lacy,
All right,
Nathan,
Aye.
Michael DeCara.
Aye.
So I guess Robert and Steve aren't here. I'm an aye. Okay, well,
You can push the button, Jeff.
struck.
Such power.
okay. We're editing as we go here. Now, all right, so we're done with that. So the next yellow item was, do we want to make a condition out of the vegetative barrier along one or both sides of the driveway? That was brought up last time as an offer by the applicant to the eastern abutter. So how do we feel about making that a condition or not?
So I'll just jump in. I mean, my thought, there's no downside to making it a condition since both the applicant and the butter seem to agree. And if we leave it vague like this, it allows for, you know, some kind of negotiated settlement, which already happened at the last meeting. In terms of, you know, I think the only outstanding thing is whose property is it on? But this basically puts in a placeholder that the board is supporting a vegetative barrier. How it gets resolved, where it's planted, what it is, that could be, private conversation. I don't think we need to get into those details.
It
All
just
right.
can't be on, it can't be on both sides. There's not room on the west side to put anything in if we're doing this cart path.
Yeah, I think just the east side, with, with the west side, nobody from the west side can attend the public hearings, and we also discussed that it was the part of that building that's closest to the lot line is a garage.
Right.
So it's not living space, as is, it's a bedroom on the east side, right? So.
Right. And that's where we were talking is basically to shelter the house and the backyard. Yeah.
So, Jeff, fast forwarding into the future, right? If the permit is issued, where, at some point, the applicant goes to the building inspector and says, all right, I've got this permit issued, and now I want a building permit for the house. So with that, there would be plans that potentially could be required to have the vegetative barrier.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the building inspector on a lot like that needs to see a special permit like that before he's gonna issue a building permit. Because the lot doesn't have enough frontage, not grandfathered, because it doesn't even have 50 feet of frontage. So he's gonna look for a special permit from us that allows him to issue a building permit. So presumably he's gonna check and make sure all this stuff has been accomplished. I have a question about this vegetative barrier. Mark, it seemed like this was something that you had in mind when the driveway was going to be centered in the right of way, so much closer to the eastern residence. And there's going to be a lot of excavation work there, disruption and possible removal of some trees that are there. But I guess I, as a planning board member, would not have thought of this as a condition just on my own if the driveway was going to follow the cart path alignment, which puts it quite a distance from the eastern house. So I feel very weak about requiring this. I feel fine about it if you want to work out something with the abutter to keep them from appealing this or whatever, but I just don't feel like it's necessary. As something that's important to the planning board.
Jeff, can I just ask you a question about that? I mean, what goes on in a public hearing is informative to the board, so all the input and the conversation. And so my takeaway was we heard conversation from the applicant and the abutters to say this was important acknowledgement that, by the applicant that the abutters concern was valid. And so it's sort of just codifying what we heard in public hearing. And like it is going into the details. I think there's, where it goes and, what kind of stuff it is. That really is a private negotiation, but it's more a reflection of what we heard in public hearing. I wouldn't have generated it up on my own. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it necessarily, but the fact that we had substantial conversation occur in public hearing, it seems like it's codification of that input.
Yeah,
I tried to listen to what the neighbor on the east side was actually saying, because there's, you got to sort of want to listen to everything he had to say to try and understand what he was actually getting at. And really what it was coming down to, which I think became obvious by the end, is that he doesn't want to see the driveway. He doesn't want to see cars on the driveway. So the interest was to be able to make sure that I put something that would block that. And I think it's regardless of whether it's going to be the 8-foot driveway or it's going to be the 12-foot center. The 12-foot center would have obviously caused a lot more disruption, but I'm still willing to put the shrubs in for him. So they'll be parallel to his house and go to his backyard. so they have some additional privacy. And I also made the comment in the last meeting that he might want me to put them on his property instead of mine, so he can control them, so he has access to be able to make sure they're maintained. And I would stand by that. I think it's important. And again, I don't know how this works from a legal perspective, but I think it's important that that's something that I said I would do and will do. And whether or not that's required in the permit or not, I think because it was discussed in the meeting, Michael, and was sort of something that was important to the neighbor, and that I agreed to, that if it can be put in the permit, I'd rather see it there. Look at that, restricting myself.
Yeah, and Jeff, my only concern with the language up there now is prior to the issuance of a building permit, and that's only, again, I'm not overly familiar with that, but it might be I don't know if you'd be able to get in there and do that work without a building permit. You know what I mean? So it might be like a kind of like a.
It would probably be the last thing that's done too, because you don't want to put them in while you're trying to put a driveway in there. You want to put them in after all the landscaping gets done at the end. So I think it's got to be maybe before CO or something like that. I don't know.
What's that? Was CO is
A certificate of occupancy, so that
yeah, right. That's actually, I was kind of thinking that.
Yeah. And then the other is that I want to make sure we're clear on it, that right now it says the driveway, that would suggest 825 feet. And what we're really talking about is starting at the front of his house. Yeah. Going to the backyard.
Yeah.
Right.
So the depth of the eastern residence or eastern dwelling or something like that.
Right.
Okay, but starting around the front of the house, and not starting at the street.
Right. And not going all the way back to the house, to my house in the back.
Right.
We know what we're trying to do. We're trying to shield his house from the,
Right.
yeah, especially that bedroom.
Somebody work with me here. Give me some words.
Oh, okay, all right, so, inside the driveway, yeah. Extending, from around the front of the house, through the, back of the yard.
Front.
You want to do the front corner or something like that?
Yeah. So maybe it's what is that? Is that southwest corner?
Yeah, southwest corner of the house.
So extending from the southwest corner of the home.
So maybe like 10 feet to the northwest corner. So it's sort of.
All right, so that's about 30 feet. 30 feet.
Jeff, can you make it 10 feet past the northwest corner? Because that would
Yes.
shield the backyard.
Extending.
From the southwest corner to 10 feet beyond the northwest corner. Yeah, perfect.
Northwest corner. Yep.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Corner of eastern
The butter?
driveway extending from the southwest corner to 10 feet down the north side of the eastern budding. How's that?
Good.
This is
Corner of
exactly-
the house. Corner of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that where it should be? Of the eastern abutting residence?
Corner of the How's that? Southwest corner of the eastern ray residence, the northwest corner.
Yeah, that works.
If I was a lawyer, I would say of said residence. And
Right.
charge a
I'm
little-
just thinking, someone's got to come up with the verb for this whole thing of like typing on Zoom while everyone else is watching, and then you do your typos and it just gets stressful. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah, so, you know,
And
you
in the
can
second
also,
line, extending from 10 feet before the southwest corner. You
No,
want
it's
10
just starting, I think we're just starting from the,
You don't want 10 feet extra there too?
you know, if
we
anything, I'd say,
could,
if anything, it would be more in the back, right? Because, you know, you
Right.
want to
Yeah.
have it,
and that's where the bedrooms are.
Yeah.
well, and also like the, you know, the part of the conversation, you know, that they had was, you know, like the yard or whatever, right?
I actually brought that up. They were worried
Yeah.
about that bedroom. That was their concern, yeah.
Yeah, the bedroom is the biggest concern, so.
So
you know,
going 10 feet back, past the back of the house will give them some of that yard as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, I don't know, I mean. It's,
And
I
you're
think-
giving
I
me
think
enough
it's-
latitude here so that he and I can discuss whether it's on my property or his property.
Right.
that's the other thing I was gonna say is that we could say it could be on either side of the lot line.
Yeah, at this point, it's vague, so that should be, like Mark said, enough for negotiation.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
All right, yeah, that's good, that's good, that's good.
this one is not applicable because you haven't really drafted a final conservation restriction yet. You've got a rough draft of the model conservation, the state's model.
Right.
It hasn't really been filled out yet. So in the other cases, there was a conservation restriction that had been all completed. And what this condition was is that the applicant would abide by that draft until a final version was approved by the Secretary of EOEEA. So I don't think we need to do this in this case.
Cool.
I think this is a great way to do a permit, actually. It's,
Hmm.
yeah, everybody's looking what's going on, having input. I think it's a great way to do it. Oh,
Hmm.
okay, look at that. We're out of yellow. Anybody
You
have
just
any
got-
comment on the non-yellow part?
You gotta change that 11 to a 10.
Thank you.
We didn't
Voila.
get the case number at the beginning either.
Okay, that would be Carrie who would have that, perhaps.
I believe it is 22.003.
Dash or dot?
I usually write dots. I'm not entirely sure if dot or dash is different.
We do dashes.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
my experience. Okay, all right. So there we go.
Save
Nine-
that sucker.
I've got one nitpick in finding number 3.
Okay.
I'd like to replace the comma after open space in the first line with the word and.
Allowable.
Thank you. There you go. There's no 3 clauses there, Deacon. I got you.
Yeah, that's a big one, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm sure the headmaster would have something to say about that.
You should, wait,
Should I be so bold as to make a motion?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm sorry,
want to make a motion, Deacon?
to approve?
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
okay. I'll move to approve the special permit number 22-003 for Mark Whiteman for lot H151 or parcel H151.
Okay, second.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, Nathan, more discussion?
All right, Deacon, here's discussion. Special permit with a 7-member board takes five to approve. Do we have 5 people?
Yeah,
We have
We have-
5 if everybody votes yes.
We have just 5. I guess if I had my brothers, I would abstain as ZBA chair, but I think I have to vote. Oh, well. Okay,
Yeah, because we don't have Robert or Steve, so.
okay, now are all of the voting members folks who have attended both of the hearings?
Yeah, everyone was at all the hearings, right?
yeah.
Okay, Bonner was at the hearing, Chiara was at both hearings, Lacy was at both hearings, Murphy was at both, and Weston was at both.
I believe so.
That's who's gonna vote tonight. So we have 5, that have attended both the hearings and are here tonight to vote.
Right,
Is that true? Okay, this is important stuff.
it is.
So Jeff, I have a question for you. I'm forgetting what's the term for something of necessity.
Oh, action of necessity or rule of necessity.
Rule, I think it's rule of necessity. Anyway, it might be helpful that we just vote to claim that, because it means that you're voting as the 5th person to take action by the board, because if you abstained, we couldn't take action.
Okay.
So rule of necessity.
Yeah,
So for folks who don't know, so what ends up happening sometimes is if a body, so a committee or board has to do business, but there's enough members that they can't rule. So an example was with the solar developments. On the select board, we had to vote on something, and 2, maybe 3 of us all had conflicts of interest because we're all abutters in one form or another. And so on the face of it, no one could vote, or maybe there was one person who could vote, but there was no quorum. So what you do is you declare a rule of necessity, which means that the body is required to do business for the town. And therefore, by doing that, you're saying that even though we're abutters or otherwise disqualified, we have to do it because as a body, we need to do this. So I think given Jeff's situation is, it's not really a conflict, but it's perception of one, that it would be wise to sort of, first vote on, the rule of necessity, which means that when Jeff actually takes the vote, there's an understanding that he wasn't taking a position if he had the option not to. Is that all? Did I say that well?
Okay, and
Yeah.
I have a question. Am I allowed at this point to use Ashley?
Oh, yeah. Because, well, if she's been here for both of those public hearings, which that's, I guess, the first question.
I'm not sure about that. That'd be my first question.
But otherwise, yes, because it's a special permit. It's the only thing the AG lets us do at this point.
I mean,
but Ashley has not been designated to serve on this special.
that's another thing. I mean, I can't designate her now, can I?
Why not?
I don't think so, because it's already happened.
It doesn't say when. It
Deacon,
just says the board can, the chair
I
can.
don't think you guys can do it because I haven't filed all of my papers with the town yet.
Case closed.
okay.
I'm sorry.
We
All right.
almost got you to do something for
I
all
know.
these meetings.
And I'm sorry. It's like I just haven't found a business day to get over there. It might be Wednesday if the weather's decent enough. Because I'm off school that day. I'm taking a day. So
Would that preclude you from fulfilling the role?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've sworn in, like I've taken the oath, but I haven't,
Yeah, then
I have
good.
to file like the open meeting and the conflict of interest, which I have all done. I just have to get over there.
I don't
Oh,
think that
well-
would,
Oh, Christ, we're all behind in that kind of stuff.
Oh, that makes me feel better.
Yeah. So, yeah, so anyway, maybe.
I would be
Bill-
more concerned about you not being designated prior to now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll claim the rule of necessity just to make sure
Yeah.
that it's voted on properly.
Yeah,
Um,
so.
the
Jeff,
other
not to
thing
take
with,
your, not to take your steam out, Jeff, I looked it up. Oh,
Yep.
Deacon gets to invoke it. He's the only one, he's the chair.
Okay,
And then he does that for the whole committee.
well, Deacon, invoke me then. It's getting late.
You're invoked.
All right.
Okay, so is there any more discussion?
Yeah, just on the question of invoking necessity, since is it a true necessity if we have 90 days to deliberate? We could see if we have our, we're both Steve and Robert at both the meetings in January and February. We have the minutes here. I can look at the minutes real quick, but
Yeah, we have about another 60 days on this one.
so
that would
I
make-
mean,
That would make it
That's just a-
easier.
yeah,
It's an excellent point.
It'd be nice to get this done.
But,
yeah, that's the, there is that.
It's not really a necessity. I think that's Nathan's right in that regard.
but here's the question. Steve Bressler and Bob Raymond did attend both of the hearings, but they didn't attend this one.
Hmm.
It's not a hearing.
Is it a requirement that they just be at all the hearings or they be at all the meetings where a special permit is discussed? I don't
That's
know.
good.
the
That's also a good question. Yeah, okay.
Let's see.
And yeah, I guess, the other thing too is, I don't know if there's actually any, Jeff wants to abstain, but I don't know that he has to either, even without or would you? Because it's gonna be, the business is before,
Yeah. I mean, I have disclosed that I am chair of the zoning board. At the same time, I can't do anything by myself as a zoning board member because anything that comes before us pretty much has to be voted on by 2 or 3 members. So,
Right.
um,
And you don't have a conflict of interest technically.
no, I don't.
Yeah.
Well, does
So-
it,
So I am okay to vote. I would just soon not keep dragging this thing along.
Okay.
Well, that solves that. So I guess we're free to vote on the motion. Did we get a second?
Yeah, you
did.
did.
did? Well, I wonder, I mean, if should we take the vote and regard it as contingent until we talk to Donna?
I think a vote's a vote. I mean, it'd be safer not to vote and then talk to Donna.
Yeah.
I mean, Deacon, if you wanna, is there something else on the agenda tonight? Because I could,
There was.
yeah, I could look this up.
Well,
I-
let's
I
do,
just-
because
I
I
just
mean,
need I just need a few minutes with my green Bible.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the APA thing, Jeff, right now. It's chapter 4 for special permits. Just trying to get there. Jeff, what's the name of that rule?
It's, oh, Mullen rule. Well, Mullen,
Yes, that's it.
right, Mullen rule can be invoked if somebody misses. The guidebook would be a good place to go for this.
This is the one online, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
okay.
That's what I'm trying to figure out. And I got Borowski open too, but
Chapter 10 in Bobrowski, I think, is where this is gonna be.
yeah. Decision. Okay. Okay, it says, this is in Bobrowski. When a municipal administrative board is acting in a judicial or quasi-judicial capacity, which I guess we are, all members of the board who are to join in the decision must have attended the hearing. The individual voting members must be present at each session of the continued hearing. Absence at any of the continued sessions disqualify the member. So I think it's only the hearing, not the discussion, is what they're calling out here. Let me see. Then it says, Master Law, blah, blah, blah. After acceptance by the municipality now provides that a member of any municipal board, committee, or commission, when holding an adjudicatory hearing, shall not be disqualified from voting in the matter solely due to the member's absence from no more than a single session of the hearing at which testimony or other evidence received. For any such vote, the member shall certify in writing. That's the Mullins thing.
Okay.
If members are absent, the board may not consider itself converted.
So it
It
sounds like
sounds like it's a hearing.
the hearing. So in other words, to avoid me voting on this, we could extend this to the next meeting, have those other members present because they were at the hearing. Have them review the decision that we've arrived at tonight, and then have them vote. We could do that.
Well, I think what I would suggest, since we're going to not vote tonight, it sounds like, is Deacon, if you talk to Donna, you can give her the facts and ask her, what's the best way to proceed? You know, Jeff could vote as a fifth vote for, which would mean 5 people debating or voting, or is it better for Jeff not to vote and we have 1 or 2 additional people who participated in the hearing but not the deliberation? So she can give us her opinion on which is the legally best approach.
Yeah, well, one thing I would say to that is, I think if we do that, we should probably, I would suggest trying to have another meeting next week devoted solely to this and getting it done. Because I mean, this is taking longer than it should. And
Deacon, we're well within our time limits here.
okay.
Yeah, we have 90 days after the public hearing was closed, and that was closed a month ago, so we've got 60 left.
Mhm.
So we can vote on this at our next normal meeting. and be within that. But after that, then we would
And,
get into trouble.
oops, let's see, that's April 10th.
Well, let's keep talking a little bit. So are we clear that we don't want to vote tonight? I mean, we have a motion on the floor right now to approve.
The only reason not to vote tonight would be if someone challenges it. And so it seems like the safest way is to not vote, get advice from council and then proceed, but
It
I
could
mean,
also
in some-
be- it could also be challenged when it gets to the ZBA. Saying that, here you're voting one way or the other on the ZBA and you already voted on this at the planning board and, you voted, the planning board essentially sent it to the ZBA. So,
right, and as we remember from last year, it has to be unanimous, right?
yes.
Well, it has to be unanimous if we have only 5.
Well,
No, on the ZBA, there's 3 of them. That was
Okay.
the whole discussion last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if it's a variance on the ZBA, it has to be all 3.
Yeah.
There's
Deacon,
no way I can get out of voting there.
um,
And we don't have an alternate.
were you gonna talk to Donna about anything other than just the procedural matters of Jeff voting on this thing or Steve and Robert voting on this thing? Or did you want to have her just review our findings?
Well, I was thinking about the procedural issues. I mean,
Oh, yeah, well. Okay.
'cause it seems like that's what we're getting hung up on.
Yeah, no, I wasn't, with the way, when you said it, I wasn't sure if, you were also just looking for her blessing on everything we put in there to make sure that it was, she didn't have any issues with that as well. But if that's not the, yeah, so yeah, I don't know, it's,
Well, we've already gone over with her the idea that issuing the special permit here in this particular way would send them off to the ZBA for further approvals before they could do it. We've already gone over that with her.
yeah, okay, yeah, no, I was not aware of that.
Yep. Yeah, and that was fine with her.
Yeah,
So, folks, we have to go one way or the other. I'm getting tired and I gotta plow snow all day tomorrow, so.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I think we should try to wrap this up. I agree. Well, are we ready to take the vote on whether or not to approve the special permit application tonight? Do we want to talk about that more? That's what's.
What do you think, Deacon?
Well, my sense is that people are uncomfortable with the situation and that we should probably not vote tonight. That this is a disappointing result to me. I mean, I would like to get this done, but I appreciate Jeff's conflict situation. We don't have the votes of Robert and Stephen tonight, so we can't get to 5 votes without Jeff. So I mean,
I think that it's best if I don't vote, and it's best that we not rely on Ashley's vote since she hasn't been designated to serve on this particular case.
right.
And there may be some procedural aspects of her position that she hasn't followed through
Yeah.
with yet, like others
Yeah.
of us. So given we have the time to get an opinion from Donna and to do it cleanly, so that there's no basis for any challenge, I will move, we defer until the next meeting on this vote.
Yeah, I could withdraw the motion in a moment. I think the thing compelling, maybe, Mark will appreciate this, being that we just hung our hat on the ZBA making a decision. We don't want to endanger the ZBA from being able to make a decision. So if we can
I think
have
that's
others
good.
vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mark, do you have a word here?
I'll leave it up to you guys. I think you gotta do what you think is right. I think there's, yeah, I think Jeff makes a point. I mean, I'll leave it up to you guys.
Yeah.
I would obviously like to get it finished, taken care of. I think we've hit all the points. I think we're all on the same page. But I don't want to have you guys put yourself in jeopardy or put the permit in jeopardy either, I suppose. So I'm with Deacon. That I'd like to see it done. If you guys think that Jeff has the right to vote, if you think there is no conflict there, then I would ask for a vote. But it sounds like there's some question as to whether or not he has a conflict, and you might want to talk to your attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bear in mind, we can't vote tonight without the requirement that the permit be put into writing and completed within 10 days. So we can't vote tonight and then sit on it and then vote again in a month.
Right.
Right.
So if it's not hearing anything from Jeff Weston, Jeff, do you have any opinion? Or, because I'm fine with withdrawing the motion for now.
Okay.
Just take it off the table.
I'm fine as well, Michael.
Okay.
So then well, I'd rather actually other people make motions at this point.
Well, there's a motion
There
on
is-
the floor whether or not to approve at this point.
Well,
I was just suggesting I withdraw the motion.
Yeah, that was,
Since I made it.
yeah,
Okay.
all right,
Well-
just move things along. I'll make a motion that we defer this to the next planning board meeting. And in the interim, seek counsel from our council about the best way to proceed with votes.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? I'll call the roll. Jeff Lacy,
Aye.
Michael DeCara,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Jeff Weston,
Aye.
I'm an aye. Well, there we have it. I wish we'd done a little better.
That's, so ends our trip to the sausage factory for.
Yes, and we got a lot of the way there. Hopefully, when we revisit this next month, we can kind of get to it quickly.
Yeah. We can just tell Robert and Steve that we want their vote. We don't want their opinion.
I didn't say that.
Well, they should
least one of
they
them.
should watch the recording of this meeting, but sometime between now and then.
That would be smart, yeah.
Right,
Say again?
so,
I didn't hear you, Nathan.
Steve and or Robert, hopefully will watch the recording of this meeting on the YouTube.
Yeah.
And
I'll put the
yeah.
hammer down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so how about I redistribute the decision as we have gotten the draft as of tonight?
Great.
that's great.
Good.
Okay. All right, how we doing, Mr. Chairman, on the?
We're doing poorly. Let's move on to the minutes of 1:11 and 2:09.
I'll say good night. Thank you.
Okay. Night, Mark.
We'll
Thank
we'll
you.
see you on April 10th. Is that correct? 7 o'clock?
It'll probably be a little after 7 for you. We usually
Yep.
try to get a little bit of business in.
And just that is the Monday after Easter. If I don't know.
So
if
you're gonna
that's-
have a chocolate hangover? Is that what you're telling us?
I don't know if that's of any concern. I just noticed it on the Google Calendar, and I just wanted to. I figured I better say it now than have it come up during during the month or whatever. But I don't-
No, Good Friday would be the one
to avoid, right? Okay, that's fine. I don't know why Google did. Easter Monday. I never heard of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll move to approve the minutes of January 11th, 2023.
Second,
Discussion? Okay, I'll call the roll. Jeff Weston,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
Michael DeCara,
Aye.
Jeff Lacy,
aye,
I'm an I. Good.
Okay. I'll move to approve the minutes of February 9th, 2023.
Second,
Second.
Nathan, okay, I'll call the roll.
hold on, Deacon, I actually have edits to these.
Okay, good.
So, do you want me to share the screen quick?
Sounds good.
Yeah, because they're in the, let me try to find these things. Oh. Come on. Here they are. All right, here we go. Here's the minutes. All right. This was Tracy McNaughton comes in and talks about the master plan. And the last thing we said here was
Oh, wow, I missed that.
it is unlikely the master plan will be updated in the short term. And I recall pointing out that the community visioning, not missioning, visioning process, an aspect of the master plan was more recently updated under the direction of town committee with assistance from a consultant. So that was just a little thing that I mentioned at the end that should probably go in the minutes.
Well, so Jeff, the only thing I would say, we should clarify what was updated because the master plan wasn't updated. You guys submitted a report. It's the way that reads, it feels like the master plan was updated.
Well, it's an aspect of a master plan.
Well, but it wasn't because
Okay, the community component. Of the master plan. I don't have to say. That was the only thing that we did, and that was kind of, I'm not sure if that really goes in and amends the master plan or just,
no, I mean, if I remember correctly, because the select board didn't, I mean, it was contentious, but you guys submitted it. I don't think we accepted it. If you remember correctly, there was disagreement, but I mean, it was there, it was presented, it was a report, we went through the process. So I think
well, this doesn't say whether the select board approved it or anything else. It just says
Yeah.
it happened.
Lacey points out the community vision process. I think it might be better. It might be better to say, Lacey points out that there was a more recent community visioning process conducted under the direction of town committee with the assistance of a consultant. You know what I mean?
Lacey points out that a community visioning process was more recently updated.
Was conducted under the direction of a town committee.
Conducted, there you go.
That's fine.
Cool.
Okay. And let's here. Lacey confirms this process as one of the ownership options. Not his, but well, let's see. What was no, actually that's fine the way it is. His I thought that referred to me, but it doesn't refer to me. It refers to Mr. Whiteman. So that's fine. Okay. And then down here, this could either be a single dwelling with or without an accessory apartment, or a single structured duplex. But this is one of those places where I'm telling him what the maximum allowed would be. So it says with or without an accessory structure. That's just a little change right there.
Do you mean accessory apartment or structure?
Structure is inclusive.
Don't scroll past it. I just want to read this. It seems like it's important. So what you're saying here is what the options are. Well, here, no, so this is our whole conversation at the beginning. So you're saying, since the driveway proposed is not shared, then only one structure is allowed. This could either be a single family dwelling without accessory or single. So this is exactly what we're debating. So based on our recollection, that's shouldn't be in the minutes unless it was said.
Well, no, I kept saying it, but then Whiteman kept saying, all I want is a single family dwelling.
Right.
Over and over again.
No, I get that. I'm reading the sentence and it says, since the driveway proposed is not shared, then, because, so he's only pitching a single driveway, then only one structure is allowed. And so the first part of it talks about the single family.
You can
And
have
it's the or single structure duplex, which is, it sounds like that's not what he was asking for.
No, I kept telling him that if it's not a common driveway, so if an individual driveway, he could have a single family dwelling with or without an accessory apartment, or he has enough there calculation wise to have a duplex, which is still one structure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the last part of that sentence that if we approve the minutes, we sort of undo what we just said, I think. Does anyone else see this or am I reading it wrong?
I think if we really want to, understand what was said, we probably need to review the videos or tapes.
Well, I'm okay with it if no one else says. I'm just concerned about us approving it and then having it be contradictory to what we said.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go back and alter Carrie's minutes based on what we did at this meeting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then let's leave it.
Yeah.
If
Okay.
I may at all, if it clarifies anything, if I remember correctly, and I think this is where a lot of the confusion was, is that during this discussion of what was and wasn't allowed on the property based on the acreage, I feel as though, because I as well do not remember Whiteman specifically saying that he was keeping it open to either single family or duplex of such. I think this was more of a general discussion of what was allowed, and he was just more of like understanding that's what his options were, and he wasn't saying that's the options he was looking for to pursue, like encounter of the single, if that makes sense. He was just basically saying that he understood what his options were, but weren't saying that he wanted to keep the options open.
Got it.
Makes sense.
And
Yes. Okay. That helps.
I'm not at all sure that he understood the difference between a single-family home with an accessory apartment and a duplex. I think
I
he
may
may,
also be using the wrong wording because I know this is very technical and I'm not entirely advanced in the information, but
Jerry, you're
Join the
along for
club.
the ride with the rest of us.
join the club.
I'm trying my best.
Yeah, I
You're
don't know.
doing, you're doing dandy.
I think that looks all right, you know, I mean,
Okay, so the next one is just, from instead of form. I make this typo all the time.
yeah.
And then, oh, huh. Terrell agrees the vegetative barrier would be an acceptable mitigation. So there was no mention of the financial offer. And I'm wondering if that should have been included in the minutes. Not necessarily because we're gonna do anything about it, but because it was said and it was fairly significant.
Yeah. So the fact that the applicant offered to pay.
Yeah.
If I can jump in here, I remember perhaps incorrectly that he mentioned something like $10,000, but maybe I misheard him or don't remember it properly.
I believe that is correct, and my reasoning for not including it was because I think later on in that I believe Jeff Lacey had mentioned that that's something that isn't entirely like a permitted aspect. So I mean, if that was an offer between the applicant and them, then I thought that was kind of only between them, if that makes sense. That wasn't something that like if
Yeah, I mean.
or it didn't involve planning board, if that makes sense.
I think you still get the general idea that there was a conversation about it, whether or not there's a dollar value there, so I don't think we need to sweat over it.
Well, I think it's worth, to Jeff's point, I mean, and Carrie, I can appreciate, I mean, your call was probably, you know, an accurate one, in based on what Jeff was saying, but it seems like documenting the fact that the applicant offered to pay for it is worth, you know, regardless of the dollar amount, just that the applicant report agreed to pay for the expense.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, he did say that, didn't he?
Yeah.
His
Sure.
expense is up above in the next, at the beginning, very beginning of the page, expense, right? We scroll up a little bit. Right, that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
the women's
Cool.
expense, yeah, so it's
Okay,
already,
so that's there, yeah. Well, we can keep what Jeff put in there, I think that works too. Because I think you said that.
All right, yeah, I mean, we don't have to belabor this, but I just thought, I thought that was fairly significant, even though it's not gonna really fit in, into our permitting, it was fairly significant that he made the offer. I mean, the abutter would want to see this in our minutes if they ever had to go back.
right, yeah, no, that might be worth putting into the condition of the permit is to have or payment in lieu of.
Well, this is, I think this is sufficient because this is documentation of a discussion in a public meeting. So,
Yeah, this is just minutes.
yeah, so if Whiteman ever went back on his word, the butter could look up the minutes and say, here, you said this in a public meeting.
Yeah,
Okay, moving along.
yeah, yeah.
Or acting on. It said, before acting on the permit. Let's see here, it's actually the building permit. Not our permit. Before acting on the permit, we're almost acting on the permit tonight, we're gonna act on it next week, but he's not gonna have a conservation restriction. So it's a building permit that he needs to have that in hand before before he can get the building permit. So I'm just correcting that. It's not
Okay.
our permit, it's a building permit.
Should that say before receiving a building permit? Or,
Yeah, that'd be better. receiving. All right, Carrie, so I'll send you this when we get done with it.
Okay.
Let's see. The submission was not done correctly and therefore was never officially submitted. Was there, or this could be was. No, there's the was. Just take out the is.
Good, good.
Okay. That's it.
Yay.
Right.
Okay. So I'll send these minutes to Carrie.
Well, we should vote on them.
You should.
If we're through talking.
Okay. So I guess the motion would be, or the vote would be to move as amended, or approve as amended.
Yeah,
Correct.
so any more talk before I call the roll? Okay, Jeff Lacy,
Aye.
Jeff Weston,
Aye.
Michael DeCara,
Aye.
Nathan,
Aye.
I'm an I.
Ashley, doesn't this beat grading papers?
She's just gonna have a
I'm
snow
gonna
day
say no
tomorrow.
comment.
Oh,
Are we
you
gonna,
you do have a snow day. Oh, I do too, in a different sort of way.
I don't have a snow day yet. Amherst does,
you-
but I don't.
oh,
You've got to have a snow day tomorrow.
I've
They're just
got to
both-
have a snow day, I know.
Yeah. We'll call the superintendent for you.
Please do.
are we gonna hit any of those other agenda items?
I hope not.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Zach,
So I heard a second, discussion. Does anybody really want to talk more?
Steve is not here.
He's not the one.
So,
So I'll call the roll on adjournment. Nathan,
aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Jeff Weston,
Aye.
Jeff Lacy,
aye.
I'm an I.
Great.
Thank you all. Well,
Good night, everyone.
it's
Good
been
night. Good luck tomorrow, Jeff.
Good night.
Thank you.